Here.
Vice Mayor Aliba,
Here.
Mayor Snyder,
Here.
all council members are present.
Thank you. Can you all please join me in standing for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, this is a continuation of where we were after 3 hours and about 15 or 20 minutes last Thursday. Just a couple of points of order. The city clerk has asked that we try to finish 5 minutes prior to 7 p.m. so that she can have enough time to set up the other call. We all have to move to a different URL at that time anyway, so there's a little bit of time there. That puts additional constraint on our time. And I want to say that we got a lot of work done in 3 hours in a Zoom environment with a brand new council member, and maybe all of us having a slightly different version of what actually is a goal or it isn't. We ran out of time last week to go through the last strategic initiatives, strategic initiative 5, and try to consolidate or eliminate some of those issues. And we did the same thing. We ran out of time for strategic initiative number 6. Then the consultant said we make 5 votes. So there was some discussion of that with the city manager over the last couple of days. But what we've done is do the 5 votes, and the city manager will report on that. But I wanted to just make sure that everybody understood that the 5 strategic initiatives that we had last year had one additional one set up this year, and that is the city manager. And Tom, please correct me or add to it. This is how he and staff look at the work that they do. The categories of their various projects fit within those 6 strategic initiatives. So there's a possibility, after we see how the 5 of us voted, that one of those initiatives may go away, but that doesn't mean that that work still does not have to happen. And I hope that the city manager can roll that out. I used an example. The new strategic initiative is on environmental issues. And even if we got rid of that one, that work still has to happen. By having its own standalone initiative, it lets staff be able to focus in on the goal, the work that has to be done by state and local and federal law, like the organics law for SB 1383, which we had at council a month ago, getting the short-term methane problem, and even things like the food service ordinance. That 6th strategic initiative covers those things staff are already required to do. So with that, I just hope, what I'm hoping tonight, because I think we're rushing this, and I think we're all trying very hard to get these things done. And yet this is big business of where staff is going to spend those other 5 projects that we consider are the most important. So I hate to push us through this tonight and not have enough time to understand what's currently being worked on and what we have to do by law. So let's go through it tonight, but be open to having another special session or bring it back to council for a final vote, and not feel like we have to get it done when we're down to less than 20 minutes. So with that, city manager, please tell us the results.
You're muted.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Snyder. Good evening to you and members of the City Council. Tom Williams, City Manager. Elaine, if you could go to slide number 3. Next slide. So as the mayor said, that following up on our March 4th goal setting session, we did decide, or the council decided, to send out a survey where the council picks their top 5 goals. And we did that. The response is before you on this slide. The top of those top 5, there are 6 mutual responses that receive the highest level of vote from the council. And they start with, and these are not in priority order. These are just the 5 that were selected. So the first one is more business, greater commercial development. Number 2 is the general plan. Number 3 is to improve streets, roads, medians, especially on El Camino Real. 4 is public safety. 5 is a downtown plan, and 6 is the business improvement district. So those are the 6 that the council, based on the March 4th goal setting session and the follow-up survey, had concluded are the top priorities in terms of goals for the city this year. Next slide, please. So this kind of breaks it down a little bit. I think, as the mayor was saying, is that we do every day work on day-to-day city activities and things that we are required to do by law, and other goals that were adopted by the city that don't fit into into a calendar year, right? They are ongoing, and they're multiple year projects. But starting with number 1, more business, greater commercial development. That included, the biotech developments in the Millbrae Stationary Specific Plan that we're working on, the Office Depot development, which Trammell Crow is working with our Community Development Department on an application for that property, more downtown development, and then the last is greater commercial development and get more businesses, or attract businesses. And so we're constantly continuing with our business attraction, economic development outreach effort. Number 2, the general plan. Again, as we've had discussions with the council, this has been on the top priority for several years now. As I mentioned, Darcy Smith, Community Development Director, working with our consultant, have rescoped that effort. Not to get into detail, but we kind of missed the boat in scoping that very early on. We've now regrouped, rescoped. The silver lining and not having a general plan adopted prior to January 1st of 2020 is we would have to redo it anyway based on housing legislation and different land use legislation. So we are moving that forward with our consulting team. Now, of that priority inclusionary housing ordinance, that's a work in progress. We'll be bringing that to the council in April, as I mentioned, and the complete active transportation plan. I think that this is an element, just as we talked about the specific plan, continuing to be a work in progress, but bringing that forward as a priority ahead of the general plan. But this will all fit nicely as all of the elements of the general plan are wrapped up in the next couple of years. Number 3, improve street, road, medians, especially on El Camino Real. And under that, traffic calming, which we're working on and continue to work on. That's a multi-year project, and complete infrastructure projects. And again, this is as we get into the budget process and we look at our capital improvement program for water, sewer, infrastructure, storm drain, all the capital improvements. That's an ongoing project as well, multiple year projects, I should say. Number 4, public safety. Neighborhood Watch program has come to the forefront, as well as the license plate reader programs. The LPR program continues to be a work in progress. Chief Kunkel's been working with Caltrans and our consultant, as well as Public Works, to the locations for the license plate reader cameras have been identified. It's now just working with Caltrans on finalizing the permits that are required for us to put our cameras on Caltrans facilities. The Neighborhood Watch program, as I mentioned at the last goal setting session, the chief and I are getting, we've talked about that and are getting together. And as we get this coronavirus behind us, we'll be rolling out that Neighborhood Watch program. Number 5, the downtown plan. That is the specific plan that we've talked about that includes design guidelines, streetscape design, urban design, land use, densities, that again, we can focus and accelerate our downtown planning as we continue to work on the general plan, but accelerate the downtown plan. And then that downtown plan will fit nicely into the comprehensive general plan as we get all of the elements finalized and bring that to Planning Commission and City Council. And then number 6, Business Improvement District. We, like I said, reached back out to New City America, and that's a work in progress. We're kicking that off with our EVAC, our Economic Vitality Advisory Committee, and looking to restart that as the pandemic gets behind us. So that's on the left side is what the council's agreed to focus on this year. And again, this isn't the only thing we're working on. And I want to make that clear to the council that, this is a very busy city and day in and day out, keeping the city moving in terms of maintenance and community concerns and questions and other application processing. We're extremely busy. Plus the transit agencies that we haven't even talked about. The transit agencies, BART, Caltrain, high-speed rail, take a significant amount of time, staff time, to work with those agencies, monitor what they're doing, respond to them, and react to their planning efforts. On the right side are the singular responses that the council members had submitted as part of the follow-up. So all in all, there's 5 of you. You each gave 5, of your priorities. There should be 25 responses, and that's what we have here. So if I go to the left side, 3 of you said more businesses, greater commercial development. 2 said the general plan. And on item 3, 2 of you said improve streets, roads, and medians. Public safety, 2 of you said that was a high priority. Downtown plan, 2 of you said that was a priority. And number 6, business improvement district, 2 of you said that. That's 13. Plus on the right side are 12. That totals 25 responses. And so on the right side, underground high-speed rail station. Item B, California Drive build out. Letter C, water storm, water, sewer, recycled water systems engineering design work to break ground on that. Item D, multilingual access to all governmental communications to residents. Letter E, parking management district. And again, parking management district, that's one of the things that we continue to work on day in and day out, with the city council approving the parking authority for the transit area or the stationary specific plan. There's been requests to bring that back to the council to incorporate that state law for the entire jurisdiction of the city. Letter F, resume community events. Letter G, look to make things work, not looking to why we can't do something. Letter H, residential and commercial design guidelines. Letter J, use natural planning and noise and air pollution abatement. Letter K, urban forestry plan. And the last one, letter L, a 10-year urban forest restoration plan. So those are the 25 responses that we have received from the council. So Mayor, with that, I'll open it or direct it back to you and for discussion and any questions.
I'm looking at this and saying, well, most of my 5, if not all of my 5, are in the singular responses. But one of my comments was, for strategic initiative 6, we could have bundled a lot of those. And a lot of it is, we committed as a city to a climate action plan. We've signed the mayor's climate action agreement. The federal funding will be coming through to see climate action. And everything on the mutual response side is all terrific. And I can support it all, but we are not living up to our commitment for doing climate action. And, the disposable food ban is great, but it's not really climate action. And, so I'm a little disappointed, but, if this is where the other council members sit, I just also look at this and see number 2, general plan, inclusionary housing ordinance. I believe you reported to us last week that should be done within the next 2 months, but maybe that frees up more time. I guess with that, I was not overly keen with this process. I would have liked each in the future, and the city manager and I've talked about this will be up to the next mayor, but in the future, we have a process that allows more description of what these things mean and what's already currently in practice and things like that. And that might make our prioritization process easier. But with that, City Council, are you happy with this? And we'll start with Councilman Holliber.
Thank you. I think it was a good process. It's never perfect. Not everyone is going to get what they want in terms of the top goals. But I think, as the city manager mentioned, this is not, it's not a definitive, all-inclusive list. It's really just highlighting the top overall goals for the council. It doesn't mean that if projects not in the top 6 aren't going to make it. I think there will be opportunities for other projects to move forward. But I think overall, I feel very comfortable with these 6 being the 6 strategic goals for the year.
Thank you. And I have to apologize. It's raining like crazy, so the airplanes are taking off over my house. It might be a little bit noisy. My apologies. Councilman Fung.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Looking at this big list of initiatives, I think it speaks to some of the most important things that needs to get done immediately for our city in preparation in the post-COVID world here. And if that's the will of the council, right? And so I think we need to move forward with it.
Thank you, Councilman Fung. I agree with you completely on multilingual access. And here's the weird thing about these things on singular responses. You and I are the communication subcommittee. We can continue to move forward on this. And having spent the last 3 days at the National League of Cities, we can, with our subcommittees, we'll also be doing that, and there will be staff input. So, I think it's critically important that we have multilingual access. So I know that was one of yours and it didn't make it on, but that doesn't mean it's gone.
Well, Mayor, if I could jump in here, this is one of those things that we'll continue to do. And we'll do the best of our ability to have translators and also translate some of our written documentation into multiple languages, because it's important to continue to make sure that we properly communicate to the community and they're properly engaged.
Thank you, City Manager. And thank you, Councilman Fung. Councilwoman Pappen.
I agree with the process. I do think it would help the entire council if we got some definitions about what we're moving towards. So before it gets on the agenda, the definition of inclusionary housing ordinance, complete active transportation plan. I think we all need to be more informed about what these issues are so that we don't keep getting sidetracked. So to keep the council focused, I would love to see a paragraph on each of these so that we know moving forward and people don't get off track on various things here. I would assume that some of these things like C belongs over by the infrastructure projects. And the parking management belongs more in the downtown plan thing. So I think some of those, although they're on the singular response, really fit into some of the other mutual responses. And I note that the city manager said we're not putting these things aside. So I think they're important. I think we have agreed how we're going to address as a unit, as a council, the Caltrain and high-speed rail plans. I think that's still a priority. And as to where it fits on here, I think time is of the essence on that front. So with that said, in order to be as productive as possible, I would like to see us get some more definitions on these things, please.
I think that's an excellent suggestion, Councilwoman Patman, because I'm coming from BPAC, active transportation plan means something very specific. And if the council is supportive, then staff can help broaden these so that everybody's on the same page in knowing what everything means. And in terms of your comments on high-speed rail, absolutely. I'll be reporting out on that during council comments tonight on at least a couple of pathways. So thank you for your comments. I agree. Vice Mayor Oliva.
So I think I agree with everybody that has already spoken that and pretty much would agree that the process has been amazing. It's been it's kind of funny to look and see that there's the mutual responses that made it to the left side are all 2 people, not 3. So that's kind of enlightening. But yet I would agree with Councilmember Pappen that we need some definitions so we could check it off and move it forward. And I'd like to be able to measure my goals. And if we can say exactly what we're looking towards and we could check it off, I would feel better about that. And then like Mayor Schneider says, we can always add to these goals. I mean, this is 2 meetings. We don't have to have, I mean, it's working, I always say this, but it's a working document here too. So to check it off and get it over with and move something into place, I would be totally in support of that as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Vice Mayor. All right, we are 4 minutes to the time when the city clerk was hoping we would end. It
I
looks
still have
like,
a question, please.
okay, hold on one second, Councilman Pappen. Tom, if you are comfortable with these, and then we'll have a comment from Gina Pappen, I would take a motion to approve. And we'll check something off our list. But I do like Vice Mayor Olivas in trying to definitely list the deliverable for each of these, or deliverables on each of these. Some are obvious, some are less obvious.
Yeah, as I mentioned, what I plan to do is take these adopted goals and put a work plan behind each one in terms of what's the timing, what's the cost, and what are the deliverables, so timeline, budget, and process to implement.
I would only add number 3, improve the median strip on El Camino Real. That's one of those relationships with Caltrans, so it's not as easy as what we can do on our own land. So some things might take longer just because it's multi-agency. Councilwoman Pappen.
I am deeply concerned about the general plan. The city of Millbrae has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and not gotten any results. And I understand clearly what the city manager said, that it would, with all the new laws, would have to be done here. I definitely want benchmarks on this, and we have to have results that money is not going down the drain, as I suspect it had in the past. Not to say anything about the current administration whatsoever, but it's disturbing. So if we're going to focus on the general plan here, we need to have benchmarks, we need to have results, and make sure that the city's money is spent reasonably.
Yeah, if I could respond to that,
ahead.
We agree. And when I came on board, we inherited a scope that was misscoped. We inherited a draft general plan that was very generic, that didn't achieve Millbrae's objectives. And so that's been part of the problem, is going back, rescoping, fixing it, looking at the allocation of resources and budget, and making sure now that as we do move forward, that is a general plan that meets Millbrae's needs, that actually dives into what Millbrae is and what it's about, rather than a generic document that, wasn't going to achieve what we wanted it to do anyway. And so, yeah, I hear you loud and clear, and absolutely agree with you 100%.
Thank you, sir. It looks like Miss Oliva's raising her hand.
Sorry,
Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you. So Tom, how will you put that in for a definition so that we can be able to say that we achieved that?
Well, so a general plan, like I said,
Put you on the spot, just like an example of something.
yeah, no. So for example, a general plan has 8 elements, right, that are required under the law. And again, a general plan preparation, as well as the environmental impact report, is a multiple year project. So as we're rescoping and have rescoped the project, I will bring that work plan back to the city council, and it says, okay, under land use, task A is this, task B is this, task C is this. Here's the price, here's the timeline, here's the deliverable. So that's something the city hasn't had, is a very detailed work plan that we can use. We can keep the council informed, just like the recreation center. Every month we have an update and a report, keeping the council informed. These are the tasks, this is what we're doing. So that's how I see it, Vice Mayor, is, again, we take these goals, I put a work plan behind it, we measure deliverables, time, budget, and that way we can report in, whether it's monthly or quarterly, with the city council. Now, some of these are going to get done soon. Some of them are, mid to longer term. The infrastructure issue, for example, that's ongoing. Our capital improvement program is an ongoing project constantly. And depending on the ebb and flow of revenue and resources, that's something that, during the CIP process, then we'll have a discussion with the council on what those priorities are. I think Councilmember Holliber mentioned his concern about moving forward with our water main projects and getting that moving forward. The city spent a lot of time, as everyone knows, the last decade or so, on getting our sewer system fixed and lifting the consent decree and addressing those issues. So, it is, I think, as you mentioned, Vice Mayor, it's a dynamic document, but I hear you, and it's an effective tool for us, myself as a city manager, department heads and our employees to have a work program that, we all agree to, that shows all those things and measures those performance standards or
Okay,
output.
I'm
Yeah.
going to cut in here. We are at 6:56. If there's no further discussion, can I have a motion and second to approve?
So moved.
That was
Second.
Vice Mayor Oliva, seconded by Councilman Fung. City Clerk, could you call the roll? Call the vote.
For Halper,
Aye.
Councilmember Fung,
Aye.
Councilmember Pappen,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Oliva,
Aye.
Mayor Snyder.
Aye.
The City Council adopted the 2020 goal setting with a vote of 5-0.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, staff. Thank you, council. All right, here's the deal. If the public, and I see some public members on the call, if you're watching us on YouTube, you're going to need to change over to a different URL for YouTube. City Council and staff, we have to exit out of this particular link and sign into a new link. And please get there as soon as you can. I don't think we have a really heavy load tonight, but we've got decisions to make with the rec center. So let's try to get back as close to 7 o'clock as possible. Thank you. Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, MCTV.
Thank you all.